That means that it's more realistic than the other ones. Like, imagine this as a first-person game right now. Like, that doesn't feel very realistic. But this, as you can see, that's much more realistic.
But back then, the concept of trolling was lost on a lot of people. And it wasn't just me. You can look in the comments of a ton of his videos and just see the Nintendo fans and fanboys ragging on this guy, blissfully unaware that this is exactly what he wants. I mean, I was under the impression, since so many other people were crapping on this guy, then I was justified in doing so. He would even make videos addressing the Nintendo fans, or as they were called, Nintendrons.
What I'm gonna do here is, I'm gonna do Super Mario World from a Nintendron's perspective. Welcome! This is Dinosaur Land! Oh, I'm so excited!
And thus the cycle repeats. Just keep pissing one group off over and over again, and you'll have endless amounts of entertainment. When you finally watch this guy's videos through eyes that aren't burning because of salty teenage fanboy tears, this guy is actually genuinely funny at times. I found myself laughing at some of his comments and how full of himself he is.
I was considered basically a genius. I was in all the gifted classes. I was in like the higher advanced placement, things like that, you know. I probably spent about a month in this room just jumping around trying to figure out what to do. You know, the last thing that ever crossed my reality-based mind was, you know, jump into a picture. I finally ended up finding this, probably by mistake, after about, I don't know, months and months of research.
I'd honestly say check out his channel for some classic shitpost reviews. I don't really feel I'm doing any wrong by exposing an obvious troll to a large audience. He's ultimately harmless, and the channel is all but dead now. He made a review on Pac-Man 2, and since then he hasn't uploaded anything in almost 9 years. So obviously, he's never coming back. He's not technically a Nintendo fan. Well, maybe he is, he's just not showing it. But he sure as hell pissed a lot of them off, me included. He popped up for a couple of years, pissed a bunch of fanboys off, and then left without a trace. The mysterious man remains mysterious, and I hope wherever you are, mysterious man, you're living your best life. And can I please have that copy of Earthbound you allegedly own? I would really love that copy of Earthbound.
Anyway, I would give it like, I don't know, I'd give the game like a 3 out of 10. Thanks for watching.
So we talked about a Nintendo zealot, a Nintendo elitist, and a guy who trolled Nintendo fans. But how about we ended off with a Nintendo fan who attempted to reach for the stars? Compared to all of Nintendo's franchises, The Legend of Zelda has probably the most dedicated group of fans. No, scratch that. Zelda fans are the most dedicated compared to any franchise ever. It doesn't come without reason. Zelda games are some of the most highly acclaimed and beloved video games ever made. You ask a majority of industry veterans what influenced their work, and they'll most likely say Zelda. It represents the generational fandom I was talking about. You'll find Zelda fans of all ages due to the game's influence and how long the series has been going. But also, if you ever criticize a Zelda game in any way, you can bet your ass you'll get hounded for it. If you don't think the newest Zelda game is a 10 out of 10 masterpiece, you just signed your own death warrant. The best example I can give would be 8.8. I won't say anything past that. If you know, you know. But it's not all negative, because even though there are some insane Zelda fans, there are also some who have shown their love for the franchise and have created some amazing pieces of art and entertainment to show their love for the series. Despite being one of the most popular gaming franchises of all time for over 40 years, we haven't really had any adaptations of the games outside the 80s Deke cartoon, which is, it's something.
Zelda!
Link!
Oh boy, smooching time!
Only now are we getting the first ever film adaptation, and whether it's good or not, one can't say at this time. But that's not to say people haven't tried over the years. I can look up and find quite a handful of independent Zelda fan films made on an extremely small budget. They're not the best films ever, but you know the people in them had a fun time making them because they loved the games. And really, isn't that what matters in these? But the one I'm talking about never got made. Well, actually, it sort of got made. Let me explain. In the year 2003, the year of the GameCube and the year Wind Waker came out in the US, a man would suddenly appear in the IGN message boards by the name of Joe Cracker, claiming to be at just the young age of 19, writing a Zelda movie script to pitch to Nintendo and Deke Entertainment. It was specifically based off of the 1980s cartoon version of Zelda and had elements of Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask thrown in. Now, obviously, a man comes on the forums and claims he's going to make a Zelda animated film and pitch it to Nintendo. This has got to be a big joke, right? Well, it turns out, no. Joe Cracker was being 100% serious. He really was planning on pitching this script to Deke Entertainment and Nintendo, and was going to give updates on progress in this thread, and even created his own GeoCities website for the movie. But obviously, being some rando online and claiming you're going to pitch your movie idea to major corporations, some people in the thread had doubts and tried to talk Joe out of it, but he wasn't having any of it. He was sure this was going to be his big break. As the thread went on, multiple people would come in and get into several arguments with Joe. Someone even offered to help Joe with the script, but the biggest issue was that Joe was too secretive about everything, and when you don't have anything to show, people are going to doubt you. Also in this thread, he tried to find a multitude of ways to fund this bitch, and that includes digging through a movie theater's dumpster and finding film reels containing movie trailers, mind you, not the films, and trying to sell them off on eBay. Which the thread told him back then, movie theaters would throw away movie trailers because they were worthless. This would then turn to him trying to sell his own mixtapes on eBay, which somehow some people bought, and he ended up with a budget of like $300. This thread would continue on for several years. Joe would not stop talking about his movie pitch idea. He even created his own boards, which if you tried to go to, no, oh, that's hentai, sweet Jesus, I cannot show that. And because of this, Joe had become quite notorious across several Zelda message boards due to his obsession with trying to get this film made. But it was still super secretive on a lot of things and wasn't showed to anyone but the higher-ups. In late 2004, a strange GeoCities website popped up, and it turns out they were making their own Zelda film and calling it The Beacon of Courage, and everything in it is disturbingly similar to Joe's. And this website claimed it already met with higher-ups of Deke, and they agreed to make it, which did not make Joe happy. He would email the guy and get into fights with him over this. He even tried to start a movement on the boards called Cut the Cheese to get this plagiarist to stop. Rolling into 2005, a new major breakthrough for Joe happened. Someone claiming to be the director of the original 80s Zelda cartoon, John Grust, had gotten into contact with Joe and claimed he would love to work with him, which Joe immediately accepted. John and Joe had a few back and forths, with John claiming to have showed it to the higher-ups, but they ended up rejecting it. Shocker, I know. And this is where the original thread suddenly ends. About 800 posts in, or at least that's where the archives of it end. But this is not the end of our story, as more threads were made so we could get more updates, and it's believed that John Grust asked for Joe to send his script so he could finally get to work on the project, and Joe obliged. At this point, this has been going on for so long that it was finally time to shut Joe up, and give him exactly what he wanted. John Grust would eventually get back to Joe, and with him, he had an animation test to show him what the film would look like, and this was the result.
Link, what is that stillful wearing?
Don't worry, Princess. It's just a mask.
I am more than just a mask, boy. Much more.
Stand aside, Princess. This masked Stalfos is going back to Ganon.
Your powers are no match for me, boy.
Looks like we're in trouble, Princess.
All we can do is run.
Now this looks this looks like a huge joke. This doesn't look like it was done by a big corporation at all. Joe thought it was, though. In fact, the people in the thread loved it too. They demanded more. And so a second animation was created, which was a little longer but even more absurd.
Wow! These games get better and better every year.
My son just keeps getting stronger and more braver every day.
A map? Well, that will be no problem at all.
If it wasn't plainly obvious by now, no, this was not the real John Grust. It was a troll. It was multiple trolls. And they collaborated together and used their knowledge of 3D animation to create these with the one purpose of fucking with Joe Cracker. Not only did they create this, watermark it and send it to Joe in hopes he would believe it was real, they would later leak his entire script online. Reading through the script, it's bad, but it's about what you would expect from a 19-year-old fanfiction writer fresh out of high school. If you want to read it for yourself, I'll have a link in the description. These animations used lines straight from the script so you can hear the hotness Joe had in store for us in motion. But Joe was still too deaf to see what this all really was. He still thought it was real, and it was actually pissing some of the people in the thread off he wasn't seeing what was actually going on. Well, a couple of months later, Joe would get the news broken to him that it all was just a big joke, and let's just say he was living. But not only that, multiple regulars in his threads revealed that they were the ones behind the entire scheme. They had a third animation in development to show the world, this time without Joe's acknowledgement or consent. It's like a twist in a Shyamalan movie. This also upset Joe, who threatened legal action with his lawyer who goes by the name Greasy Beaver. Oh god, no, anybody but Greasy Beaver! But later he would actually go and support the guys, but was still furious at them for not including him in the project. Really, what could he do now? The Light of Courage has evolved past its creator at this point. Finally, in early 2006, the final part of The Light of Courage was released to the world. The longest and most detailed one yet.
You two are so stupid. I know what you want, Link. You want this.
What?
Hand it over, Ganon. Never... I will not be defeated so easily.
No, Nick Nacko is messes.
Oh, no.
What?
Goodbye, Ganon.
And so, that's the final one. The joke had run its course. There were promises made of a lot of Courage 4, or it's still in active development apparently. The channel promises it'll be finished by at least July 26th, 2035, so we got another decade to wait. Insert yandere sim joke here. They created some behind-the-scene videos and a whole website to archive the info, and then the animators just moved on with their lives. Their one claim to fame was this, really only meant for a small pool of people to really enjoy. There was no monetary reason for these to be made. They were made just to fuck with one guy in particular, and that was it. Now, some of you may have already seen these animations before, and for those of you who are just now seeing them for the first time, you actually have seen them before. You just don't know it yet. Tell me, does this character look familiar to you?
A true hero seeks neither fame nor fortune, only the courage which he needs in which to fight.
That dancing triangle you've seen posted by your unfunny friends on social media was actually a dancing piece of the Triforce this entire time. But what happened to Joe Cracker, the guy who started all this in the first place? Well, he didn't just crawl away and be forgotten in the 2000s. Believe it or not, Joe Cracker is still online. He has a YouTube channel up where he just talks about random shit. Latest upload was as recent as just 4 months ago. Joe did try his hand at amateur filmmaking, which I don't think has gone anywhere. He's made peace with the whole debacle, and is actually proud of what his script ended up creating. Hell, he takes credit for the Dancing Triforce meme existing, which I can't say he isn't wrong for doing so, because it's technically true.
Hi, I'm Robert McGee, and I wrote The Legend of Zelda, The Light of Courage, the fan fiction that became the series of videos on YouTube, and where the Dancing Triangle meme originated. This thing has clearly taken a life of its own, and there's basically no stopping it.
In 2014, he attempted to run for Congress and sent out flyers making reference to the Light of Courage to get people to vote for him. Hell, just last year, he decided to write an official sequel to the Light of Courage in fanfiction form, which you can also read for yourself. And so, that's the legend of Joe Cracker. It happened well over 20 years ago, but its legacy still lives on. Give a salute to all those IGN board users for coming together for this, and most of all, give one to Joe for giving them the inspiration to do all this. And I look forward to seeing The Light of Courage 4 in a decade, in which I'll be in the exact same position I am now. Time moves too fast. Well, there you have it. 4, well, technically 3 cases of Nintendo fanaticism. And let me clarify something. There's a difference between being a fan of something and many of these cases. Let most of these be a lesson in how to appreciate a video game company's work. As for Nintendo, well, they'll still probably be making video games even long after we're all gone, and still be making generations of new fans, and probably more cases like the ones you just witnessed. Nintendo may be a corporation, they may love your money and not you, they may be extremely cutthroat in their business policies, they may nickel and dime you for the most ridiculous of reasons, but they can still pump out a good game when they lock in, and then charge you $69.99 for 2 Wii games. I think I'm just going to stick to my backlog. God bless, like and subscribe, and good night. Twilight Princess is the best Zelda game. No, I will not be elaborating.
Hey guys, today we're talking about various nuts. You got your basic cashew. Everybody loves cashews. So it's really good. Doesn't have a bitter taste like a lot of them do. But it's not exactly the choice of the professional. Because, I mean... And then you got these little bastards. Well, they're not really little, they're huge. Freaking Brazil nuts. Kinda got a bitter taste to them, but they're still really good.
Wikipedia fact checker. Now the 6 people who actually read over this shit, as well as me 20 years later.
For r/ribs. It's even easy to get lost if you do read them right. I'm a huge Brandy fan and decided to listen to Full Moon. Today, what's your favourite album? Wrong sub. This sub is for Brandy, the alcoholic drink. Why do people think there's a subreddit for everything? Because there kind of is. Some subs compile these sub mix-ups, such as r/lost redditors and r/subs taken literally. Not, I should point out, subs taken literary. What does a literary do? Force people to use the metric system, and so in an r/aromantic. Just got a new spice mix sent from my parents. Dude thought they were in an aromatics subreddit. r/herpetology. Weird bumps? Have some weird bumps on my gooch. Could it be herpes? This is a subreddit for herpetology, the study of reptiles and amphibians, not herpes. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. Disappointed face emoji. r/sugar program. I'm a M18 bisexual Latino looking for a sugar daddy or mummy to spoil me. Right pointing backhand emoji, left pointing backhand emoji, pleading face emoji. This is a sub dedicated to cutting sugar out of our diets. And in r/no poo, a place to discuss natural hair care and alternatives to shampoo. Oh Jesus, I haven't shit in 2 weeks. What cheese should I use to improve my cheeseburgers? I'm not very
Damn it. Make your Some of the most interesting video games to me are the ones that are more toy than video game. I mean, what are video games but fancier, more complicated toys? You wouldn't even have Deltarune if it weren't for Gooey Louie. Since the dawn of video games, the medium has dipped its toes into being more toy-like, rather than being pieces of technology. I mean, for the first decade or so of their existence, video games really were just toys. You plugged them in, played 1 or 2 super simplistic games that were normally just a version of Pong. Of course, Atari and later Nintendo came in with revolutionary cartridge-based systems that changed the medium forever, but video games never truly lost that link to the toy industry. You had things like the Tiger handhelds, Tamagotchis, even some of the Toys to Life craze. They're all technically video games in one way or another, but really, you could just consider them toys. Does anybody remember the Zizzle handheld games? I never owned any, but my friend had the SpongeBob and Toy Story ones, and I'm still jealous to this day. But among all of these video game toy hybrids, there are none more famous, more infamous, than the plug-and-play systems. If it weren't for the plug-and-play, we wouldn't have gotten a controller with Kevin Jonas's face on it. For those of you unfamiliar, a plug-and-play console is exactly as it sounds. You plug it in and you play. You might be saying to yourself, well, that's just a normal game console then. Well, first of all, who said you could interrupt me? And secondly, the whole purpose of the plug-and-play is that that's all you need to play. No additional controllers, no game discs or cartridges, no internet, nothing. Slap some AA's in, plug in your yellow and white AV cables, no red because that's too much to ask for, I guess, and you're on your way to some gaming. You can argue that this all started with those Pong consoles I mentioned earlier, but the earliest instance of a more traditional plug-and-play console was the TV Boy in 1992. Which was just a bootleg console with a zillion Atari games. We've really been doing that 1001 shtick for over 3 decades now, huh? Time is a flat circle. Many point to the Activision 10-in-1 by Toymax for the first official plug-and-play system. It was a simple controller with about 10 Atari games built in. Toymax was later acquired by the toy company Jakks Pacific, who must have contracted the plug-and-play symbiote in the merger, because Jakks went absolutely wild after this. If you've owned or even seen a plug-and-play from the 2000s, I guarantee you it was made by Jakks Pacific. They started off light with some classic arcade and Atari game compilations, which were pretty neat. I mean, sure, you had the Namco and Atari compilations on the consoles, but these had the actual controllers these games were played with. Have you ever tried to play an arcade game with an analog stick? Oh, this isn't because of the stick. I just got really pissed playing Mappy. But those weren't the consoles Jakks was known for. These were the consoles Jakks were known for. Licensed kids games were already in their prime around the early 2000s, so you bet your ass the toy company was dipping their toes into the genre. It started off pretty general with your SpongeBobs, your Spider-Mans, Disney, Batman, Star Wars. But then it got a little more wacky with Mortal Kombat, Blue's Clues, Shrek, Fantastic Four, Scooby-Doo, Bob the Builder, Wall-E, Hannah Montana, more SpongeBob, Avatar, Howie Mandel, Phineas and Ferb, goddamn Dragon Ball Z. Okay, wait, that last one's kinda cool. If there was a popular show or movie, Jax got their mitts on it. One of the most iconic things about these consoles, though, was the controller-console hybrid itself. They tended to get pretty wacky with the designs, basing the controller off the property entirely. Instead of playing SpongeBob games on a regular controller, you're playing SpongeBob games on SpongeBob. This is definitely another reason these felt more toy-like. Sometimes the joystick is just straight up an entire character. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of that, though. Whenever I played the Avatar plug and play, it just felt like I was strangling the poor kid. On paper, the plug and play is a great idea. No more worrying about what console your child has or if they already have the game. Just buy them the plug and play with the character they like the most and bam, easy $20 birthday gift. These were inexpensive, cool to look at, and had multiple games, so what's the catch? They're a plug and play, that's the catch. A lot of the time, the games were either clones of pre-existing games, had very minimal replay value, or were just bad. I don't know what you were expecting from the Camp Rock video game console, but you probably got exactly what you paid for. Actually, that one's not horrible, but we'll get to that. But you have to remember that a lot of these came out in the early 2000s. You can't expect perfect quality. Or can you? God, I hope so. I gathered a handful of plug-and-plays that I personally found interesting to take a look at. Some I already owned, some I had to buy, and some were actually rarer than I thought for some reason. I definitely wanted more than like the 17 I got, don't get me wrong, but I had to draw the line somewhere. And that line was spending $50+ on a Phineas and Ferb plug-and-play. Rare my ass. There's like 10 of these on eBay, and there was only like one Camp Rock one. There was also a lot of plug-and-plays that I just didn't care for or didn't want to cover. Listen, I love Texas Hold'em, but what the fuck am I supposed to say about the World Poker Series plug-and-play? Finally, they made poker real! So without further delay, let's dive into the world of plugging and playing, and of course, we have to start with one of the most iconic consoles, My Guy Robert. Released in 2003, SpongeBob SquarePants was one of Jack's first plug-and-plays. Can you tell? There were quite a few SpongeBob plug-and-plays out there. The Fry Cook games, Jellyfish Dodge, Bikini Bottom 500, the Dilly Dabbler. Oh, to dilly dabble with SpongeBob. But just so half the list isn't only SpongeBob, I just went with the most iconic one, which was probably the worst choice. But what wasn't the worst choice was the design of this thing. I mean, come on, making SpongeBob's nose the joystick? That is genius, if only the quality was that good. Look at this title screen, I feel like it's sentient. There's 5 games in total here. SpongeBob's Bubble Pop, Sandy's Surf Adventure, Invasion of the Hooks, Patrick and the Maze, and the Super Chum Bucket. Each game comes with a little backstory, a quick set of instructions, and you're thrown right into it. It's a combination of high-score arcade-style games and linear arcade-style games. SpongeBob's Bubble Pop and Invasion of the Hooks are alright. Bubble Pop is literally just Breakout, but with power-ups. Not much to say here. Invasion of the Hooks, however, is this Space Invaders style game where you throw patties at hooks to stop fishermen from taking your friends. Space Invaders might not be the best comparison, but it's all I've got. It's a fine enough high score based game. You do eventually get Krabs and Gary as well, but I never got that far. Skill issue, I suppose. Guess I need to drink some gamer subs using code TOADBUFF for 10% off. Then I'll have the energy to save Squidward. But unfortunately, I have not drank one recently, so he is no longer with us. The Sandy game just plain sucks. It's a side-scrolling shooter, which I'm already not a big fan of, but on top of that, it's a bad side-scrolling shooter. If you get hit, it's back to the start of the level, the controls are a little slippery, and overall, it's just boring. I like the color palette on the background, but that goes for the other games as well, so it's not really an exclusive compliment. Lastly, there's the maze and the bucket. Patrick in the Maze is actually kinda cool. A top-down puzzle adventure romp where you have to play mini-games and solve puzzles as Patrick. This would have been my favorite as a kid, since it's actually, well, a game. And Super Chum Bucket is just souped up Donkey Kong. Fantastic. Overall, the SpongeBob plug and play is just fine. I could see some value in this for kids though, especially getting to play with the fun controller. The games, with exception of Sandy, are simple and entertaining. Its color palette and sprites pop out and are fun to look at, and you get to play with a little Bob. I consider this a solid plug and play. But another solid one is the Atari plug and play. Sort of. This is the aforementioned Atari 10-in-1 console. It's an Atari joystick with 10 built-in games. I like this one because it really gives you the Atari experience, unlike a lot of those old compilations. Sure, there's less games, but you get the actual controller, horrible joystick and all. You've got Adventure, Asteroids, Breakout, Centipede, Circus, Gravitar, Missile Command, Pong, Volleyball, and Yar's Revenge. All classic Atari games, but all I needed was Circus and you had me hooked. There's not much to say here. They're Atari games. The most value that can be had here is from people who grew up with the Atari, getting to re-experience these old games in a good way. I'm sorry, but if you were a kid in the 2000s, your ass was not choosing the Atari console over the SpongeBob
but tomorrow's
gaming
not Friday.
contraption. But it's a good console, it does what it sets out to do, and Atari games can still hold up decently. Except Pong with the joystick, that's still terrible. The Namco plug and play is up next. There were a ton of these things, including one that I've still seen on store shelves in the past few years, but this is the most bare bones down to earth Namco plug and play that there is. Now why did I buy the one that's technically the worst? Because I got it from a garage sale for 50 cents a year ago, so that's what we're covering. Fun fact, this plug and play was broken right up until I got my footage. I was gonna make a silly little joke being like, oh no, it's broken, I can't play it. But God laughed in my face. You've got 5 classic Namco titles, Pac-Man, Dig Dug, Galaxian, Rally X, and Bosconian? Pac-Man and Dig Dug are obvious picks, but Galaxian, Bosconian, and Rally X? Okay, Rally X is one of my favorite arcade games of all time, but Galaxian and Bosconian? No, Galaga, Xevious, Miss Pac-Man, Mappy? Strange choices for the first Namco plug and play, but I guess it could have been worse. Galaxian is just a weird version of Galaga, and Bosconian makes me hallucinate, but otherwise this is a fine lineup. The best part of this console is the console itself. I love the arcade stick and button. It really feels like you're playing on a mini arcade cabinet. Future Namco plug and plays do it way better, but this is a solid enough little console. It just needed a little bit more. This, on the other hand, didn't. Power Rangers SPD, Escape of the 5 Fugitives. This one actually had 2 variants, a controller and a joystick. The joystick is obviously the superior one. You get to Lord of the Flies the Red Ranger. I'll keep it real, I know nothing about Power Rangers. In fact, I hated them as a kid. I think I just found my classmates saying "Go, go, Power Rangers" so annoying that by proxy, I never touched the show. I do like that one video though where that one guy goes, "You're just boring."
You're just boring! You're just boring!
In this game, you get to choose from the 5 Rangers, each of which needs to stop a different villain from a nefarious deed. It's a side-scrolling beat-em-up, beat up enemies. I barely played this one. I only bought it because I found it at my local game store, and it was essentially just a cheap little bonus to the collection of consoles that I already had. I do think the fact that it's a beat-em-up is pretty cool. I mean, I love beat-em-ups. The graphics are fine, it's just very much not for me. Hydrax is a dumb idiot. Power Rangers fans, please feel free to kill me in the comment section. At the same time I bought the Power Rangers one, I also got this one. Scooby-Doo and the Mystery of the Castle. I love this controller so much. The stick is a ghost and Scooby is holding on for dear life. Your dog's about to fucking fly out of your van, Fred. Be a little more concerned. Anyways, this might actually be the best one so far. Right off the bat, you have difficulties, saves, and options. It's an immediate upgrade from the last few. 5 games this time around, each representing a different chapter in the story, starting with Race to Fonte Castello. Fred absolutely floors it in the Mystery Machine as you avoid objects on the road and try to survive. Then there's the River of Frights. Hop away on logs while Scooby throws live birds at you. Searching the castle, you play as Shaggy and Scooby making their way through the castle. Pick up items, hide from enemies to get around them, pretty simple. The mysterious doors. You need to get from point A to point B using these color-coded doors that lead to one another. Key, enemies, and other obstacles are in your way. Probably my favorite game of the bunch. Lastly is the Dungeon of Fonte Castello, where you navigate the dungeons of Fonte Castello. These games not only are actually kind of fun, but they last a while too. Multiple levels on each, all connected by the same story with charming graphics. Dare I say it, this feels like a video game. No way! Well, we can't have that now, can we? Super Silly Makeover is here to save us from having fun. One of the first fully original plug-and-plays not based on a property. I actually got this one complete in box, pretty cool. It's just a shame I can't close it back up. I may have quite literally opened Pandora's box. The whole premise of this one is that you need to give your character a super silly makeover, corresponding with the word that the announcer uses. Sometimes they need to be silly, sometimes they need to be sad, sometimes the game console just doesn't function at all. After you finish your face, it's judged and that's about it. It's literally just this one game mode over and over again. I can't see a single reason that this would be similarly priced to something like the Namco or Scooby-Doo ones. This might be the worst one so far. Well, I mean, it did have closable eyelids and a mirror on it, so that brings it back a little for me. Next up, we've got Avatar The Last Airbender Book 1 Challenges. Unfortunately, this only covers Season 1, so my goat Toph is nowhere to be found. The controller for this one is really cool, having Aang balance on the air scooter. It even spins too, it's such a neat touch. It's a shame I have to crush his bald head to play penguin sledding. 6 whole games this time around, most of which are actually pretty entertaining. Most of them. There's Sokka's Boomerang Challenge, a puzzle game where you toss a boomerang and try to hit the balloons. Zuko's Fire Blast, a much better puzzle game, has you shoot fireballs to hit gates, power-ups, and more. Very interesting puzzle game that I had a fun enough time playing. Then there's Penguin Sledding, which is dumb and stupid. Appa's Air Blitz, a decent side-scrolling shooter, and Avatar Adventure, a whole-ass 2D platformer with multiple movement mechanics. I didn't play a ton of it, mostly because it was getting late and I had been playing plug-and-plays for like 2 days straight, but what I played was actually very impressive. For a plug-and-play, this is the cream of the crop. It actually reminds me of a mediocre Game Boy Advance licensed game. That's the American dream right there. Thanks, Aang. Oh, also, there was like a rhythm game based on the Kyoshi Warriors. I don't know how I forgot about that, but that one's okay, I guess. Flipping from Nickelodeon to Disney, we've got High School Musical all together now. There were actually a lot of live-action Disney properties that got the plug-and-play treatment for some reason. That's because these were for the girls. While boys got Spider-Man and Power Rangers, girls got Hannah Montana and Howie Mandel and Hannah Montana again. I think the funniest one that was marketed towards girls, though, was the Sleeping Beauty plug-and-play. Because that's just a whole-ass figure as the joystick. Do jacks just think that girls have never touched video games ever? Oh yeah, I give them a whole-ass action figure to play birthday celebration with. They won't notice. Anyways, I didn't actually play the High School Musical game because, come on man, it's sealed in the box. I've never been a keep game sealed kind of guy. Even being a retro game collector, I've never been that person. But this is something you need to keep the packaging for. They also repackaged it in 2012 for some reason, 4 years after the last movie. This wasn't the only High School Musical plug-and-play, though. There was also this Wii ripoff that I'm now just realizing exists. God damn it, I would have bought that. I'm sure this would have been a blast. I knew the world was missing a Diner Dash clone. Not like we've had any of those. But if you want a Disney Channel movie plug and play you can actually see, look no further than the Camp Rock plug and play. This was honestly not too bad. You could probably tell from the Jonas encrusted controller.
What in the loud house are you doing? I came here to let you know a day is coming. Which day? Knick-knack was here. Here. Okay. Now was
Oh boy, just for laughs! Just for laughs!
Nickel. He's gonna love it for real. What's next? What's next?
Oh, garde, juste pour rire! Juste pour
Just for laughs.
nunca relaxa. A gente está sempre ligado no que os filhos